Hey, Kowalsky here. Welcome back to another video. Now in this video I want to cover another match that Staunton played, and this might not be the greatest ever match that Staunton played. There are still a few games in the match that are worthy of a feature, but he was challenged by Bernard Horwitz. Now Horwitz was a German-British citizen, right? He had a citizenship for both countries, and he recently, to that time, he moved to London. Like in 1845 he moved, then he got his citizenship, and then he challenged Staunton to a match. Now he was part of a group of German chess players, obviously, as that's where he initially came from, and he once beat Bird in a match in 1851. That was like his greatest chess achievement. And we're gonna go over two games that I selected for you. These games are still beautiful despite the match not being, as I said again, the greatest match ever that Staunton played, because his opponent maybe has not been the greatest opponent ever. The match ended 13.5 to 8.5 in favor of Staunton. So let's just see the game. We just have e4 in the first game. E5 is the response. Now knight f3 and d6, the Philidor defense. We have d4, e takes d4, knight d4, and now knight f6. This is like classical. This has been actually played by Magnus once. So knight c3 and bishop e7. Now we start to deviate a little bit. We have bishop e2 and now castles. And now f4. This move has only been played 6 times before, and this has been played at a pretty okay level between mostly IMs. We have c5 now and knight f3. This we're down now to only one game, and that game continued knight c6 just like this one, and now obviously castles. We have bishop g4, and this is the first new move. We have bishop e3 now, and as you can see, this almost resembles a Grand Prix attack structure, because the D and the E pawns are traded, but it's almost, because the C pawn is still here, right? So in the Sicilians, the C pawn is not there. And we have a6, and now just a3. Just some moves restricting the opponent's movement, and now we have a trade here. This trade is not the best because the bishop is not actually that bad here. You could actually retreat it to e6 if you really wanted to retreat it, as f5 is not really a problem. Now you can just go back bishop d7, and now white's chances to strike with e5 are very, very low, and the position is almost equal now, as it's pretty dry. Instead of that, Horwitz decides to trade here in very inaccurate move, because now the bishops are just gonna be some laser beams here on the e3 and f3 squares. Now we got rook c8 getting kind of out of this diagonal, bringing the rook into the game. This is a classical move that you play, and now knight e2 and queen c7, and now knight g3. Staunton reroutes the knight and prepares now to strike with an attack. We have rook f to e8 and now c3. The final move just stopping again the knight coming to d4, and just prepares the attack even further. We have rook c to d8 and now even queen c2. Now you can see that the plan is pretty clear. We have bishop f4 and now finally rook a d1. Bringing the last piece to the party, and now b6. b6 is kind of like a waiting move. You don't really have anything else better to do, but if you play b6, why not play b5, try to create some counterplay with b4. This would have been a little more active than the passive b6, because now we just have b4 by Staunton, and knight back, trying to get in on these weaknesses, but you don't really have time for that, because Staunton just goes c4, and here cb4, ab4, and now actually we have a very interesting move, d5. This is interesting, but it's sadly inaccurate, as Staunton will prove. He plays queen f2. here he could have actually tried to play the move e5. I don't know why he didn't. Maybe he didn't like the move knight e4. But now there is again an amazing superb move now, not taking the knight but just knight f5. And now this is a little bit of a threat, as you're gonna see. And for example, if you try to like you liquidate something, I don't know what you can liquidate here in this position. Like if you just try to play maybe a move like f6, right, to just try to do trade. Now this is not as good because you get queen b3. Now the queen gets out of the way, and the king's positioning is just way too bad. For example, dc4. Now you can just go back queen c2, and you have an attack on the knight. After the rook trade, now you cannot save the knight. Basically, the knight has no more squares, and you're just gonna lose the knight and probably the game. Like knight b5, and here you have a little bit of counterplay, but it's not sufficient at all. But instead, Staunton goes queen f2, which is not a mistake by any means, and now just have knight c8. But this move knight c8 simply allows c takes on d5 with no problems, because before, you know, the queen was pinned, but now it's not there anymore, so you can just take the pawn, and now you're just completely winning. We have e5, knight d7, and now just d6. A very nice pawn chain here has formed, and after queen b8, now you can just go bishop c6 and just harass the black position. We have g6. Now the knight jumps in, right? The squares are very, very weak. We have rook e6 now trying to guard against it, but just queen h4. And now after you attack the bishop, I happily trade the bishop and I just go knight g5, just trying to checkmate you. Here we have h5, but now Staunton simply takes the exchange and plays the move f5 now. We have a5 by Horwitz, and now just f takes e6, rook g7, and after e7 he resigned. This was, you know, pretty good gameplay by Staunton here. Basically the highlight is that even if you take the pawn in this position, I still get to take your pawn right here. And there would have been very interesting complications. For example, here you cannot really take, as this would be almost a draw, because material would be equal, and here, even though you can take the rook, this is actually impossible because it's a very, very funny mating too. Just check, and it's just mate, because look at that. You didn't expect that. I didn't expect that either when I first saw the game. This is mate, rook d4, and it's mate. Like, you cannot even take the exchange, and you gotta be very, very careful what you do. You're pretty much forced to play knight f5. And now after rook c8, right, you gotta go bishop b6, attacking the knight. But now you just trade, and this is probably most likely a draw with perfect play, of course, that is. So, you know, all in all, this could have been, you know, a better game by Horwitz, but just a very interesting decision here with this attack by Staunton nonetheless. And now this the first game is just gonna be a miniature, and I kind of spoiled it, but there's no worries, as it's so short that this is, you know, almost non-existent. d4 f5, now the Dutch, c4 knight f6, and now knight c3, and we have e6 by Horwitz. Again, Staunton playing with the white pieces again. We have bishop g5 and now bishop e7, right? So we just have like a classical, you know, just Dutch defense, a little bit passive by black, but okay. We have e3 now, and now c5. So black just decides to just jump in, just play c5, and just attack the center. We have just knight f3 calmly developing. Now knight c6, but this move knight c6 allows d5 with a massive tempo. We have takes, and now just a massive mistake by Horwitz. He takes. And why this is a mistake is just amazing, right? You take the knight and you're gonna say, well, I just got the bishop back, I'm up a pawn, right? I'm up a pawn. But here what he overlooked is that after check, because he was ready to give up the exchange, right? He played king d8. And if you take the exchange now, right, there might be a little bit of counterplay, maybe f4, you know, maybe he foresaw something here. Although this is still completely winning for white. Here you literally have no worries at all, with white. You're simply up way too much material, but instead he went king d8 and he simply missed knight d6, and now you're just losing because you cannot take the knight and you're king and queen are forked. So this is a very, very interesting miniature, very nice one, and that's why people really kind of hate a little bit on the Dutch, as you have a lot of weaknesses. But in the right hands, the Dutch can be a good kind of like a good weapon. But this time it did not work out. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you all in the next one. Kowalsky out.